Hi, everybody. It is so great to be here. Well, it's not podcast number two. This one's live unexpectedly, but that's okay. I'm just going to go with it because I can and because I know that God is going to bring in the message that I'm supposed to be bringing to you. So the title of this live stream is Ancient Text, Truth or Not. And I'll tell you, I spent many years questioning, and I mentioned some of this stuff last week. So if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. But those of you that didn't hear me last week, I spent many years. My spiritual journey started. It'll be 42 years, February 20th. That's also my father's birthday. So, it's been a long journey. And to be honest with you, I never thought I'd be where I am today. And 42 years later. So back then it was like being 42 years old. It was the impossible, I guess. So, here I am. And, prior to the 42 years, I guess I was anti-religion, anti a lot of things, establishment, um, just accepted ritualistic ideas. Um, and I just couldn't fathom the idea of a God being the conceptualization of what was being presented to me as a young child and then later as an adult. And I always questioned it. When I would read the Bible, I would question things. And there's, like I said last week, there's a lot of people that you're not supposed to question. That's blasphemy. And to question anything. And it's like, I don't believe that either. I believe the stories, of Jesus's life, all through the Bible. His apostles asked questions. When they didn't understand something, they asked questions. And Jesus never told them, don't ever ask me a question. Now, the leaders of the traditional religious organizations, they condemned people for asking questions, but Jesus never did. Jesus was a teacher, and I I am also a teacher. Like I teach in school, K to 12 schools, and um, the one thing I try really hard not to do is condemn a child for asking questions. Sometimes when they ask questions, there's not a realistic way of explaining, and like in math concepts, and you just say, look, this is the rule. Just remember the rule. And as long as you follow the rule, you're going to be okay. Because they're abstract. They're abstract ideas. Some say they're concrete. I don't know. But a lot of concepts in education, a lot of math concepts are, you know, why? Why do you have to do it this way? Why do you have to do? Because you do, unfortunately. And because I work in the field of special education, you get that a lot. Um, and it's all in the way you explain it to them. You don't want to stop people from asking questions, because it's in the asking of questions that people learn the truth about whatever it is they want to know. And I found myself asking questions for years, and nobody was willing to like delve in helping me find those answers. And it wasn't until I was 26 years old and I began a journey that led to a path of spirituality. It wasn't the complete path, but it was the beginning. It was the beginning road. I came to a fork in the road, in my path, and it was to either continue down the road I was going, which was truly hell, or to follow this other path, which was again very. It was a very organized path. It had, if you followed the path the way it was designed, you were going to come out okay. And at that time in my life, I needed to follow the path that the way it was laid out, because I had no I had no design for my life. So at that time, I was in desperate need of the steps to follow, and the staircase to climb. And, and it all began for me. And for a long time, that road of spirituality worked, and it worked well for me. And I was able to um, not allow the past to control where my life was going to head. I was able to accept um, life on life's terms. I was able to become a worker among workers, a daughter to my mom, build relationships, and I was able to they sound like little things. And for a lot of people, they probably are, and they probably come very naturally. But from where I came from, I needed guidance in every area of my life. And in that process, in starting that path, I went from being a 15-year-old dropout to becoming a teacher of special education with a master's degree in education, then becoming, a grief coach, and all these other things just kept coming in line. And I was still searching. I was still searching and searching and searching, because I was still questioning, what is the truth when it comes to God and Christ, and all of these concepts that have been thrown at me all my life. What is the truth? And it was a couple of years ago. And a couple of years ago, my life was overwhelming. And there were things that were on my plate that I no longer wanted to digest. I just didn't. I had had enough. And I got to a point where I really had to close some chapters in my life. And and I had to fight the guilt of that, because there was a part of me that was, if I walk away from this, I'm going to lose all these people that I truly love. Um, but I can't I can't stay here, because I'm dying. I'm dying, literally, spiritually, emotionally, just everything. I was dying. My heart, everything was dying. And I was just a shell of a person. And I didn't know how to fix it. So my natural my natural answer to anything that's overwhelming and um, is to escape, to run away. And but this time, when I was going to run away, I wanted to run away to a better place. And I found myself in this new place, pretty much alone, and finding a way to truly find a solid ground on my spirituality, my belief in God, my belief in Christ. And I started down this journey a couple of years ago. And I really started to learn about the inner truth, and how God is in all of us, in us, and yes, God is everywhere, but God is within us. and heaven is within us. And it says that in the Bible, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what that meant. Um, so for the first time in my life, now here I am, 65 years old. For the first time in my life, some of those questions I was asking all my life are finally getting some answers. And, I found a few people that became my mentors for a good year. And I decided to go to the University of Sedona to get to become an ordained minister and to get a PhD in theology. And in that process, and again, not right away, but in that process, I began to find out who God was to me. And I think that's the key, and this is not, there is nothing that I have. I know there's a lot of beautiful, wonderful people that are in a very structured and traditional religion, and they practice that and they don't question it whatsoever. Um, and I admire you for that. Um, and I certainly don't condemn anyone for their beliefs. I just, I know for me, I needed to dig deeper. And what I found was I had as a kid, they were real. I mean, they weren't just, I wasn't just being an ornery child. I wasn't just being, a child of disobedience. They were real questions. And the things that didn't make sense to me, they truly didn't make sense to me and a lot of other people. And, I just, I'm so grateful that God has given me an ability to take my questions to another level and take my questions right to source. And little by slow, all these things have come forward for me. So with that, last week I read Genesis chapter 1, the first 6 days of creation. And, today I just want to tell you that um, as much as I know that that's a standard belief in the Torah and in the King James Version of the Bible, it is a very standard belief. And if that's what you believe, then so be it. Um, I know I've come through my metaphysical education and learning about the sacred texts that are out there. I've come to a place where I know there was more than that. And even in those two texts, I pointed it out last week, where it says, we will create man in our image. Just that fact alone says that there wasn't just one divine being, there were many divine beings, and that it wasn't one person creating this world that we're in. It was many beings putting their energies together to create what we have today. So there's a couple of sources that I use, and I didn't show it last week, but the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'm sure some of you have heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and there's a lot of different things that are said about it. Some say it's all lies, but they were books that were hidden away in caves by the Dead Sea. And then we have the Lost Books of the Bible by Joseph Lumpkin. And that's got some good read in it, especially the story of Adam and Eve. Really, really gets, I mean, there are things in there that I'd never heard before. Um, but they make sense. They answer those questions. And then there is the Nag Hammadi. This is a translation, of course, because it is an old, old text, the same as the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this is from the Gnostic scriptures, and it's by James Robinson. This is the one I have. I'm sure there's other translations. And this is the Nag Hammadi library. So you know, I'm not going to read this because it's very long in the creation, but I'm going to point out the pages that I would recommend that you read. And it's not to change your ideas, it's not to convince you of anything. It's it's if you are in a place where you've questioned things, and if you think that maybe there are some other answers out there, I suggest that maybe you go to this book, and you can get it on audio, you can get it on Kindle. And this is the one I bought was a used copy off of Amazon. And the pages that I'm talking about right now are going to briefly talk about are 171 to 189. And there were actually, according to this text, there were two Adams. The first Adam was Adam of the light, and he was created, and they ended up destroying him, the beings. Now, this also talks about there were beings, the dark energy beings that created some of the things that were here on earth, that came to earth. And then there were the light beings. So the dark beings obviously were demonic, and the light beings were obviously of positive energy. And this chapter really, it is the chapter of on the origin of the world. And I found so many of the things in here absolutely amazing. And if you think about what's going on in the world right now, um, the third world order, all these things that are happening, it talks about, it's in this text, and who would have ever thought that a book created God knows when, found in caves, that it would be a story of today. And I think that these older texts, and even there's a lot of stuff in the King James version and the Torah that have facts. It's just that a lot of times they're overlooked, because we have been so what is it? We've been so put in a clay pot. We've been so like molded. That's the word, molded into what these organizations want us to be. That to delve into, to look outside or beyond what that is saying. We were always, most of us, some of us, were taught this is the word, and that's it, and that's all there is to it. But there are a lot of us also being enlightened with other information. So also, and this is going to dampen maybe a lot of ideas for many people, there were two divine high beings. One was the male and one was the female. And the female was the Pistis Sophia. So they were the high beings, and which makes sense because the world is all about opposites. Male, female, good, bad, white, black, morning, night. It's all about opposites. So to think that the female, even ourselves, we have male energy, we have the masculine energies, the female, the feminine energies. So to think that the female was not an important factor in the creation of mankind, I personally think that's an insane thought. But again, I just want to recommend that you read some of this. Seven's like a big number in this chapter, the number seven. Seven females, seven males, seven pure hearts, seven dark hearts. I mean, seven demons. And it all comes out to like 40. It's just amazing. There were 72 nations, um, 72 figures of gods that rule over 72 nations. So, again, um, it's just a lot of information to take in. And sometimes I have to read the book and listen to the audio because that's just how my brain works. Um, and it seems like when I read it again, I'm not finding what I read the last time, which drives me crazy because then I spend hours just trying to find what I was looking for. So, I'm gonna leave it at that, and I really look forward to coming back again and maybe getting into certain parts of this chapter. Um, and oh, never mind. I'm not even going to say it. But again, I suggest that you read it, and then when I come back, I will definitely um, delve into certain sections of this because it's so intense and there's so much to it that you can't just cover it in one section. I may even do a private Zoom link, talk about the section that I'm going to get into, and then attach a Zoom link to it, for more detail for like an hour long class, study group on it. But with that, I just want to say that, I am a believer. I believe in divine source. I call that divine source God. I also believe that to be Christ conscious is to be kind in teaching. We're here to be able to teach others what we know, and not in a mean and unkind, unloving way. And we're also here to help each and every one of us to tap into that inner truth that we are feeling within, and to be on the true path that we're meant to be on, that our divine creator has sent us here to be on. And none of our lives were mistakes. Okay. We're here to live the life we're here to live, not to be miserable, not to regret things, not to feel like we're being punished, but to learn a lesson from this experience. And, I could sit and dwell on everything I've experienced in my life, but that's not why God put me here. God put me here to learn something about this life that I can turn around and give back to the world, to make the world just a little bit better. And if I can do that through this video, great. If I can do that through my Reiki healing, or the crystal things that I do, whatever I do, however I can do that through my ministry, I will do that. And I just hope that all of you find your path, find your truth, search your heart, meditate, and the answers will come. If you have the question and give it to divine source, God, your answers will come. You will find your purpose and the meaning of your presence on this earth. So, love you all, and may you all be blessed in this day, this beautiful, beautiful day. Bye-bye.